Aloha and welcome to Hawaii Preppers Network 808. How prepared are you if there is an immediate situation or circumstance that needs to be remedied and fixed immediately? Perhaps you may be on a fixed income and you'll find things are very tight and you may be at a blockage or walls are blocking you from coming up with some kind of a solution to these immediate situations. Now, there are key components to these immediate situations, and it affects your financial health, your mental health, your emotional health, as well as your physical health. And these will affect all of these key components to you and or perhaps your entire family. Now, what am I talking about? Well, for instance, if someone suffers a health issue in your family and you need to take care of that individual, and you are the one that is healthy in that relationship and or situation, if it is just two people, you and your husband, or if you have a big family and you have to care for the elderly, these are a lot of things that a lot of solutions need to be pretty much right at the ready as much as possible. For instance, for myself, it is just me and my husband. We have a few pets, and my husband has suffered a very serious brain injury about 5-6 years ago. Now, this impacts a lot of things when it comes to preparedness. Lots of adjustments had to be made pretty much immediately for myself as well as my husband, and he had needed to retire early, so that has an effect on his pension and his retirement, and I had to leave my job early just to take care of him. So I was his primary caretaker for all these years, and I still continue to do so. Now, he's gotten better over the years, but he is not 100% how he was before. So as a caretaker, I monitor him, make sure that he gets the proper diet, is taking his medications, because these medications he will be on for life. And so I need to be sure that I take care and handle a lot of different things when it comes to his health and when it comes to our financial health and my mental health and physical as well as emotional health. The circuitry in his brain is dysfunctional. He can function, but not at the capacity that he was, not how I remember him as being sharp in many different areas, many different aspects. He's still somewhat sharp in different things, but overall he is not 100% there. It becomes frustrating when you remember that individual as they were and the things that they could do versus the things that they can't do. Therefore, you, such as myself, will have to take on quite a lot of load here. Yet we still work together. We still do things that need to be done. But a lot of these things I have to be sure and be in that sound mind space, because his mind is not quite sound. I also have to remind myself that he is not all there. His memory is slowly slipping, and his hearing as well. So, I have to put myself in that space of unconditional understanding, and that is a very tall order to fill. I'm sure a lot of you understand that and know what I mean. I have to be able to remove myself and get myself out of the way and understand the situation as a whole, and try to tame that frustration and at times anger in myself to move forward and look at the solution aspect the overall situation and circumstances. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have the foresight and prepare in many different ways, whether it's food, water, the pets, because even the pets can create a situation for you, especially if your pets are elderly. You're going to have to take extra care of them, and that may be extra costs, especially if there's surgery needed for them, and different medications and special foods, and a lot of different things. And that can become costly, especially if you do not have the sufficient funds to tend to them, to care for them in that manner. And preparing for your pet and your pet's health as well, not just food and water, and having a comfortable space and surrounding an environment for those pets, whatever type of pets that you do have, is very, very important. And a lot of money is involved with that pets as well. Having to navigate through a lot of these situations and circumstances is very challenging, especially if you have elderly pets, you have elderly people in your family that you need to tend to, you have sickly people that need to be tended to as well. And I've had a cornucopia of all of that, all in one basket, all at one time. A lot of the times you're going to need to adjust along the way as you navigate through any particular situation and circumstances when it comes to financially, mentally, emotionally, physically as well. Throughout all of this, I've managed to keep myself healthy, sane, as much as I possibly can, and moving forward through whatever daily living situations that arise and immediate situations that need tending to as well. So the adjustments definitely need to occur and need to be made depending on your situation and circumstance. Now, everyone's situation and circumstances will be totally different. They won't be the same. Some of them may be similar, but it all depends on a lot of different factors. During this time, everything is just literally being targeted. Everything is falling upon the mass population globally, within our countries, different countries, within our states, and for ourselves. So it's hitting everyone hard, especially with the cost of living going up, inflation, and we're watching how the dollars and stocks and all of those things, just literally being hit left and right, and that means we are taking those blows left and right as well. So preparing is not just preparing for food shortages, water shortages, the necessities that we need. In a sense, to myself, that is a minor aspect of preparedness, especially when your situations start to dictate how you're going to do things preparedness wise. And preparedness encompasses a host of different things. It also encompasses if somebody passes away, if somebody goes in the hospital, are you going to be able to make those payments? Do you have medical insurance? Do you have enough finances to be able to pay for those bills? If somebody gets hurt or sick, or there's something really dire that happens, will you be prepared for that? Because a lot of these things we don't even think about until it happens. So the best thing would be to get into the habit of looking more so in all these different areas because you never know. One day, something will come out of the blue and hit you, and you'll be thinking, I should have prepared for this. Now, life throws all of us curveballs every now and then, and it's how well we're able to navigate and move through these curveballs. Never feel as though you're going through it alone, all by yourself. There's always help, there's always support out there through friends, family, co-workers. There's also support helplines that you can search out, and there's different things that you can look into that can help you through these trying times. Now, sometimes things happen and things will hit you and or your family really hard, to the point where you're going to need to exhaust all resources. Perhaps it could be emotional resources, mental resources, physical resources, and or most likely financial resources. Now, when the financial resources hits you hard, what are you going to do? How are you going to navigate around that and come out the other end, so to speak, in not too bad of a shape? Because you can really get beat up while going through that financial hard times. So how are you going to fare that? Some of us may kick into the hopeless, helpless mode, which is, and fear, which is understandable. A lot of times that is the first response, the first reaction to these things. And after a little bit of breathing space for you, perhaps you can come out in greater clarity and the things that you need to do and get handled right away. Now, like I said, it's not going to be the same for everyone. Of course, a lot of people will have ideas, tips, advice, solutions for you, but they're not in your shoes. So you need to remember that they're not in your shoes. They're not in that situation. Be grateful and thankful for that support, help, and advice that you are receiving. You may take that with a grain of salt, but ultimately, the deciding factor of moving in any way or direction for whatever situation and circumstance and or problems you are up against, you're going to need to come through with the right solution for you in your situation. Now, I'll give you an example, and a lot of these examples I use in my videos are of myself, my situation, and no one else, because it pertains to me. It may pertain to someone else, but if I can teach someone and help them in some way, shape, or form, if they ever come against a similar situation as mine's, perhaps there's takeaways for them that they can tweak themselves and do things in their own ways and coming to their own remedies and solutions for whatever situations and circumstances they're moving through. Now, all of you are aware that I have gone through a loss in my family, and this happened to be my mother that passed away the ending of December, and we finally laid her to rest in January. So that was the soonest time that the mortuary could give us. So it was like about a month before we could lay her to rest. Now, immediately after that, another challenge occurred with me and my husband. Now, this challenge prompted me to move fast and think fast on my feet as well, because this was very serious. This was a very serious problem that I wasn't fully aware of, because my husband does not really tell me everything. He's not a prepper. He doesn't know how to budget. I'm teaching him these things now, but a decision that he made has become costly for us. I will not go into full detail, but some details, you'll get the picture. A couple years ago, he decided to take out an equity loan on our home, and we were making payments, monthly payments. Unbeknownst to me, he stopped making payments, and we started receiving letters. Yes, he needs to communicate a lot better with me, and I am going through that with him. I am teaching him the value of communication here. Now, this situation has become very serious, very dire, to the point where we could have lost our home. As furious as I was, I needed to think and clear that out of my system and put that aside and think fast on what we were going to do, what I was going to do, because I know that he's not quite out there. His mind is not sound. We also had a time limit for a specific amount of dollars in payment, which was quite a lot. Now I've had to deal with his emotions throughout this, and the way his thought processes of things, which was not logical, is not logical. He did not want anything to do with this particular bank. He did not want to make any kind of payment, and he became upset at everything. So I made him understand that he pretty much has no right of being upset. You have to look at two sides of the fence, two sides of the stories, and you have to expand that perspective of yours, where you're coming from and where they're coming from. So I need to break that down in baby bites for him to help him to understand that and how dire the situation was. So now, yes, I'm without a car. My car was more valuable than his car, and so I needed to sell the car, and I needed to sell it immediately, or we would get more fees tacked on. It was just simply a mess, and very, very crazy. I've learned that preparedness entails a lot more than what we think, what we believe, and or what we have been doing. Never take for granted just because someone is sick that they're going to be all there in the mind, because that's not the case for my situation, for my circumstance. It may be the case for other people's circumstances, but definitely is not the case for mine. So yes, I sold my car and paid that whopping bill at the same time. Now, I made sure that he understood what had just occurred. I made sure that he understood the value of what I have done. And I have actually saved our house. And so I had to drill that in his head. Not picking on him, not blaming him, just have him aware, have him know the value of all of this very costly lesson. and stuff. And at the same time, you need to be good with it. I needed to be good with everything and not have any animosity towards them, because this is a joint thing. And, I feel that I'm as much responsible as well. So, yeah, so everything totally topsy-turvy, and adjustments really need to be made within everything with this one costly situation. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to put something out there like this, but as a prepper, I feel this is very valuable, and perhaps someone can learn from my situation here and what I have been going through over the years, making sure that everything is somewhat covered preparedness wise. But now, more so now, I have to be vigilant with my other half, and because of his conditions, and knowing that, there's a lot of things that I need to teach him in baby steps, and making sure that he understands somewhat with, I have to work with what I have. I have to be able to be that person that has unconditional understanding, and that is not an easy task. I'm human, but I'm spirit as well. But it's a huge, huge learning curve. My other half also knows that if something like this occurs again, he will pay with his soul. I also believe that this had to happen, because I see in opportunities and things that people would see as negative as something positive, something to shift me in areas that perhaps I was weak in, that I need to fortify and strengthen. That's how I see this whole thing. Of course, yeah, I feel beat up and I feel bruised and all that, but life goes on. I can't just dwell in this. And so right now I'm moving forward and in a more vigilant way when it comes to finances, when it comes to my home. Not as much food preparedness, because I have a lot of food stuff. I have a lot of preparedness stuff. But now, since a lot of us are aging, and the aging population, the baby boomers, you have to be vigilant and look into these other areas. The mental part, the emotional part, especially the physical part, because we deteriorate, our bodies deteriorate, as we get older. So these things become the forefront and important to us to live a healthy life, happy life, to go about this life with as little speed bumps, coming out of us, and just being able to have a better quality of living. Indeed, we are all struggling. I understand that. I'm aware of that. Hey, you're looking at one of them here. I live in a state that the cost of living is like way out there, way out there in the multiverses, and no sight in ending this high cost of living here. So we do what we can. We adjust where adjustments need to be made. We navigate and weave in and out through things, but keeping aware of the inflation, of whatever's going on there. The dollar is worthless, which we all know already, and just keeping up and abreast on everything that's going on, because all of that affects everything with us. It affects our daily living. It affects our finances. It affects our mental health, our financial health, our emotional health, as well as our physical health. Everything is tied into everything. Everything is interconnected, interlocked, if you think about it. One of the biggest things that I also stock up on is patience. I have a full load of patience, never ending stock in patience. Understanding as well. But I'm learning more and more when it comes to unconditional understanding. We all know about unconditional love, but unconditional understanding is very, very challenging, especially on the type of situation that you're in, such as a situation with myself. Some of you may be thinking, what am I going to do without a car? Or, are you going to get another car? Perhaps I may get another car, but not anytime soon. I'll visualize that car and have that car come to me at a low, low price. But for the time being, no, I'm good. Because at that moment when the decision needed to be made immediately, my thinking was I'd rather be without a car than without a house. So yes, a costly lesson for both of us, for myself as a prepper, but now I'm going to do things much differently. And my mindset is always changing. My mindset is always adjusting to a lot of different things because things are happening faster and faster. Things are accelerating in our world, in our physical world. And therefore, we need to adjust. We need to change. Change is inevitable, whether we like it or not. Resisting anything is counterproductive, in my humble opinion. Going with the flow is actually the way to go. And therefore, I've been going with the flow for years, if not decades, and not resisting whatever's. I don't want to be counterproductive. I want to be productive. I want to move forward, navigate through and weave through all of these things as much as I possibly can and figure things out as best as I can. Fortunately, I have a great network of support and help when it comes to family and friends. So they've supported me mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. These are the most important support systems for me, for myself, personally. Money can easily be made. Anyone can acquire funds. It's how you go about it and your mindset about it. But the support system like that, sometimes it's going to be difficult to come by. Therefore, I value that these major support systems, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual support systems, because they not only help me as a foundation, but it also helps me all the way around. And it helps me to get back up, be stronger, and handle and tackle things that need to be tackled with the greatest of clarity. So I think I covered everything here. And if you have any comments, please add them below in the comments. If you have similar situations, perhaps you could help the community here, the preparedness community, and those passing through, and give advice, give tips. We're always learning. I'm always learning. Learning never stops when it comes to preparedness and everything else, basically. And I continue to learn. I will never stop learning. So add those comments below. And if you have not subscribed by now, please do so. And hit the bell and notification for any upcoming videos as well. So thank you all for subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Aloha.